Post 2 Commissioner, and I appreciate y'all taking the time to come out tonight. I always wish we had more folks that come out, but I believe in giving folks the opportunity to come out, and especially this year with the tax assessments that have gone out. I've had quite a few phone calls, and I thought, well, we need to give everybody the opportunity to not only call and email, but if they want to come out and talk about some things, let's talk about the issues. So, if it's okay, we've had a busy few weeks, and I am wore out, but wore out in a good way. We've had some really neat things happen on the commissioners here the last few weeks, and I'm excited about it. And the opportunities have come to us, and we've been able to take advantage of some opportunities. So we're just excited about what's going on. But if y'all are okay, we're going to say a prayer, and then we'll pledge to the flag that we don't have here. We'll all pledge maybe towards Gary. So anyway, I'll start with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for this evening. I thank you for the folks that are here this evening. I pray that you'll just pour a special blessing down upon each and every family that's represented here tonight. I ask that you'll just protect their family and just bless their family and just continue to watch over and bless Pownall County. I thank you for our county. I thank you for our citizens. And I thank you for our families. And just thank you for your love. In Jesus Christ's precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. We'll pledge to the flag over and towards that way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good Lord for that. Here it comes.
I'll say that little flags in that car.
Chris, you were 30 seconds too late. Show us your flag.
I would like to, I'll call the meeting to order. There's only two of us here at this time, and that way the third or fourth or fifth one shows up, we're covered. So I'll call the meeting to order. We advertised the meeting to where all the commissioners could come if they chose to. We're making sure we have things covered as far as that's concerned. I think Tabitha is going to take a few notes in case we need them, in case we find out at the end that we need them, we have more to see. I'd like to start off with a couple things I'd like to share with you, and then I'd like to introduce you to some of our department heads that are going to share a little bit of information about each of their departments. We have had some great things happen in the last few weeks. I'd like to share one of the things that we've had the opportunity to do that we've been working on for quite a while that we just took care of in this week's meeting, and that was we ended up purchasing, put under contract, 3 acres close to Pownall Elementary for a fire station. And that fire station has been a long time coming. It's actually been voted for in 2 sploshs, and it didn't get done the first time, so we got it in the next splosh vote. And we were able to put about 3 acres under contract. In fact, Tuesday morning, before we had our meeting, we got that under contract with contingent on board approval, and we were able to approve that Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. So I am very thankful to the Board of Commissioners. That's going to be not too far from Pownall Elementary. Joey Pelfrey, the fire chief, we took a map and we looked at how many homes that we have around that area, and that's going to serve the most homes that we could get in that spot with the least overlap on the other fire stations that are out there. Mr. Morris got the fire station out there on Mulberry Rock Road not too long ago, and I know that's been helpful, and he's been very thankful for that, right? And so I know those folks are going to be excited about that. But anyway, we got that done, and Ron's here. Ron, I appreciate it. Appreciate the support on that. Appreciate the support from the fire chief, and looking forward to hopefully breaking ground on something in a few months. We've got a little bit of work to do to get the survey buttoned up, and we'll close on the property, and then hopefully, I would hope within the next 90 days, so maybe we can be able to do something, 90, 120 days. So looking forward to that. I've got a couple other things that I'd like to share with you that's exciting news towards the end of the meeting that we have here tonight. But I wanted to introduce a couple of our department heads and allow them to share a little bit of information that's going on that may have some effect on something going on in the county or in Post 2. And I would like to start off with Mr. George Jones, if that's okay. Is that all right? Who is over our DOT department. Mr. Jones? Thank you. Thanks for coming. Whoops. Thanks for coming out here.
We get out of the traffic. All right. Thank you, Todd, for inviting me out here. Being I'm an engineer, I'm very outgoing and love to speak to people. Love crowds. So this is a lot of fun.
You're welcome to it.
All right. First thing I'd like to talk about, we've got some projects going on in DOT in different phases throughout the post. I'll start off with the intersection of Highway 101 and Gold Line Road. As you all know, it's a very, let's say, non-standard intersection. It's kind of like the only type of its intersection I've seen around here. And to improve the safety of that intersection in Holly Springs Road, we have a project under design right now to put a roundabout, so it'll hook all those lights together. This intersection, when the time they're done with it, it'll improve safety greatly out there. It'll be very standard, and it's a very good project. Next one, we have the intersection of State Route 101 and State Route 120, Highway 101 and Buchanan Highway. We have a single lane roundabout plan for that location also. As you know, there's delays in the peak hours out there, so this will be a very good project to help capacity through the intersection. We're looking at getting partial right-of-way plans sometime soon, so we can start approaching the property owners about obtaining the right-of-way needed to install this project. We also have a project with that's partial in Post 2 at Ridge Road, Corn Store Road, and Bob Hunt, also another roundabout. Definitely a roundabout themed presentation. But again, a single lane roundabout, as you all know, this is a all-way stop intersection. So with the roundabout, it will definitely improve traffic flow, especially with the schools down off of the road. So this is another good project. Currently, partial Post 2, we have a right turn lane project at State Route 61 and East Memorial Drive ongoing. Construction right now, we just poured the curb, we've got sidewalk poured. We're having some difficulties right now with Atlanta Gas Light and Utilities. That's kind of holding up the project. So I'm hoping to get that done probably within the next month and a half or so. We'll actually be driving on that lane. Good news on that. And last thing, just this last board meeting, we entered into an agreement with the state of Georgia to provide funding for a turn lane project at the intersection of Scoggins Road and Buchanan Highway. As y'all know, out there are no turn lanes on Buchanan Highway at all. This project will add left turn lanes, right turn lanes, and like I said, I think it's a good project. GDOT will provide $200,000. We'll provide the additional funding to complete this project, which right now is estimated about $142,000.
Could you mention any dates about the two roundabouts? And we'll talk about Hall Road's store and then at this work.
Right. 101, 120 right now, we're looking at partial right-of-way plans, so we're out a little bit right now. We're probably talking 8 months or so. And 101 Gold Mine, we just issued the NTP in May on that, and that was a 19-month project. So again, you're further out. The Ridge Road Corn Store project, I said we're working on final right-of-way right now. So if everything goes well, we get all our agreements, we should be able to have that one advertised and bid by the end of the year.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Darryl, would you like to share a few words with us?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming out here.
Yes, sir.
Very much.
I'm Darryl Vaughn, I'm Assistant Director of Pownall County Water System. We don't really have anything specific to Post 2. I would like to mention a couple of things though, one about the reservoir and then maybe go into a couple of things about the just customer service related items. For those of you who don't know where to find information on our reservoir, you can go to rcrwater.com and you'll find literally thousands of pictures. So they're anticipating making water, making drinking water, I didn't have to say it last time, making clean drinking water by the end of 2019. So as you can imagine, they're well along the way in that process, constructing the water treatment plant. So if you want to go online and look at all the hundreds of thousands of pictures that have been taken of the project, feel free to do that, rcrwater.com. Customer service related, a lot of people may not know that you do not have to come into our customer service office there at the government complex to set up service or pay your bill. A lot of people don't realize that. You can, there's three ways, I believe. There's IVR, which is interactive voice recognition. You can call in and based on your voice, you do need to have your bill in front of you when you use this method because it asks you for your account number and whatnot. But there is, let me got my cheat notes here. Hold on one second. Okay. I don't typically deal with a lot of customer service related items, but I've been coached this afternoon on some of those more customer service related items. Auto bank draft. We've had auto bank draft for several years now, and it's free. It's at no cost to you, so if you want to set that up, you can. I'm not sure if you would go online to set that up or not, but definitely our customer service representatives could help you out with that. I mentioned the IVR, which is the interactive voice recognition, and then online bill pay. Obviously saves paper, but there's a small fee for that. You can set it up so that you can do it manually every time your bill is due. You call in and do an online bill pay. You go online and do a one-time bill pay. Every time you need to pay your bill, you can set it up where it takes a draft on the same date every month. So if you knew when your paycheck came in and you knew that you could pay your bill after that, you could set it up the same day every month. Or you could set it up to withdraw money from your account when your bill is exactly due. So on that exact window, you could set that up. So, I guess we've heard a lot of people complaining about that they always have to come in to either pay or set up an account, and that's not true. So just want to make everybody aware of that.
Of course, we have,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. You mentioned a fee. There is a fee online, paying online?
There was a small fee associated with one of those options, and it was maybe the automatic. Oh, it's the online bill pay. There's a small fee for the online bill pay.
Okay. And what is the website again?
It would just be the Pownall.gov, and then there's a link at the top of Pownall.gov that says departments,
Okay.
and then you would follow that to the water system. That's it.
we've had a lot of people that, when we took the water department building on Bill Creek Parkway, turned it into Georgia State Patrol, and we lost the drive-through. So the water department right now is at the administration building, and there's not a drive-through, but we do have the bill drop-off at the end of the parking lot, which folks can go by and just drop it off in the night drive. If it's picked up in the morning at 8 a.m., you can do that. And of course, soon, we're going to be at the SunTrust Bank building across the street from the Briar Patch, and that's where the water department's going to be, and then again, we'll have the drive-through again. And then you'll be able to pay your water bill, go next door to Martin's and get a biscuit. So it'll all work out pretty good. But anyway, I want to thank Daryl because when we had the water problem out in Union and Yorkville especially, we spent quite a bit of time together.
That's right.
And that's where I really got to know Daryl even more. We actually stayed out there one night, all night together.
We watched the stars.
We did, and watched the pumps and prayed for things to happen. But he was the guy out on the ground with us, and all the other workers that were out there that were dealing with all the engineers that were at the admin building and off other sites. And we had all kind of phones going, but they're the ones that make everything, get things back together, get things back online, and I appreciate it. That was a tough week, but I know you learned a lot. But as a commissioner, and I saw our employees learn an awful lot about what was going on with that system. So hopefully we're prepared in the future where that doesn't happen. But that was, I appreciate your work. Okay, that was a tough time. So thank you so much, Daryl. I appreciate it. You know, Daryl mentioned the Richland Creek Reservoir, and that project's going to be done before we know it, and we're going to have our own source of drinking water here in Paulding County. And I really feel like that not too far in the future, but 10, 20 years from now, you know, we're going to have people that sit back and say, hey, you know, the folks that were in leadership, and I'm not talking about board of commissioners, I'm talking about employees, department heads, I'm talking about the citizens that have supported things, I'm talking about the water department. I think they're going to look back and say, you know, the folks that were in leadership at that time made a great decision. We have our own source of water right now, and I think it's just going to be just so valuable to us in the future. So I appreciate, Daryl, all your work and the water department's work, and we've got a lot going on and a lot more to do the next few years, but I'm looking forward to it. So thank you so much. Chris, would you like?
I'd be glad to.
Okay. All right. This is Chris Roberts in our community development department. And, we got a few things going on this week that we worked on. Some we got done and some we didn't.
I'm just going to hit a few things to go into that part. I'm Chris Robinson, I'm planning and zoning manager and representing our director, Ann Littman, who's the community development director. And we do a lot of things. We're made 4 divisions now. It's the planning and zoning, building and permitting, development division, and business license. And one thing, jump over to business license. We were working real hard to do a lot of streamlining, where eventually we'll be able to do things online. As part of community development already, we streamlined things like sign reviews, temporary sign approvals, things like that to make it easier, saves people trips to the county to make get permits. So yeah, we've been very busy with all divisions. Growth is back. It's running close to what it was when we ended. We're looking at right now over 700 single-family home permits issued through May, or actually pretty close to today. Out of those permits, a lot of them are in subdivisions, and then you start thinking about the subdivisions. You go into what type of subdivision? Well, we've heard that word, planned residential development. We've heard it for a long time. There was a lot of zonings in the mid-2000s to go to this planned residential development category. That has been looked at. One thing we did a year ago, we approved a comprehensive plan. Based on that comprehensive plan, you start looking at areas of the county where the growth will be and where it's probably not going to be or you want it. And based on that, we're looking at amending the zoning ordinance, and one of the things is the planned residential development. Right now, the planned residential development, you go in there and max create 8,000 square foot lots. There's about 30,000 lots that were approved over a time period up to about 2008. And about 10 or 11,000 is built. Another 10 or 11,000 is either under construction or even being in phases or near phases. And then there's another about 10 to 11,000 that's not even moved any dirt. And that's one thing we're looking at. It's a serious thing because you got the reservoir coming in, you're looking at capacities, you got to look at your infrastructure and all that. We did that with this comprehensive plan, and it was a 3 or 4 year process. And so, you know, our recommendation at this time is to make a change to that PRD, push it back to a 12,000 square foot lot, to actually cut it off completely, go back and create better opportunities for development that has a little more control on it as far as aesthetics, building designs, street designs, things like that, to keep the value. And that's a big thing. And we're within, I would say, at least 2 months to having something ironed out on that. We appreciate the Board of Commissioners' support on that. Another thing that we just did, the board just Tuesday night, approved a new zoning category called R55. We were having a lot of developers come in, and they call it the silver tsunami. We're there. And I am the last baby boomer, by the way, too. I'm the last in. But they are asking to do this senior living on some of our prime commercial areas. And the way our ordinance was written back in years ago, it was something that was a permitted use with no standards, no limitations. So the commissioners did a moratorium back in January and extended it on, and they developed a new category specifically for 55 and over senior. I don't know if I call it that yet. That is the federal housing standard, 55 and over, for that type of housing. Most of the ones that go in that housing are usually in their late 60s, early 70s. But there's a category, it's got a lot of really good aspects to it, and we have a little more control because they have to come see us and the Board of Commissioners to zone to that category. Such, but just want to touch, through May, we've issued over right at 2,600 permits. That includes about 500 commercial permits and residential decks and everything. That value is about $125 million in value, and we've collected about $619,000 in fees. And one thing why I bring that up is because for about the first time, and Tammy will help me out, maybe last year or this year, that the overall community development budget is now back to being covered by user fees and not subsidized by property fees. So, but other than that, it's really busy, got a lot of stuff going on, and I think most of you know where I am. And I have to admit, I'm always reaching out. This is my thing. I love public input. I'd rather know what you're thinking than me telling you what you need to do. And I do, out of all the information I get, there's one thing I have figured out. About 2 out of 10 people will eat a fried chicken. You just wouldn't believe it. They laugh at me, but I asked people who's moved here from the north, from Atlanta, everywhere, and it's average across the board. Thank y'all. Thank you.
We've been working on what Chris talked about, the PRD zoning, and we did put a moratorium at the beginning of the year. We've had to extend that. I hope, Chris, that we're in our last extension. We're in a 60-day extension, and I hope we get things done. When you do that, you have to extend it. Some people say, well, you didn't get your job done, didn't do what you needed to get done. Sometimes, once you start a process, you come up with other things that need to be taken care of in that process, and it takes time to do it. And we hope that at the end of the day, that we make some wise decisions that's going to help us in the future with those. My personal belief is, and it's not a board belief, it's just Todd's belief, that we should have never allowed 8,000 square foot lots. Okay? And when it comes to mass grading, I'm not for the mass grading. And you look out there in the subdivision where, you know, you've graded a lot to put a house instead of mass grading, and you see the trees that are left. To me, you've just got a much more beautiful place 10 years, 20 years down the road, and then you're doing these mass grading subdivisions. And so I'm not for the mass grading, and I'm not for 8,000 square foot lots, but I am for the process of what we got to go through to make the changes, and that's what we're doing. So Chris, I appreciate you and your department's efforts, and we're working on it. And a lot of times it's nobody's fault that we have to extend something or we have to table something, but the bottom line is sometimes things come up, and to keep from making a rash decision or too quick of a decision or a wrong decision, we have to extend it on, so I appreciate it. Mr. Baker, would you like to say a few words? This is Frank Baker, our county administrator. I've spent more time with Frank the last 2 weeks than I planned to. How's that? I'll put it that way.
Thanks for having us, Commissioner. I appreciate it. I'm Frank Baker. Glad to be here. It's a great night in Pownall County.
It is.
It is. I don't want to say great day because that's his tagline. But it is a beautiful place. For those of you who haven't been here before, this is a beautiful place. I remember I came down here for the ribbon cutting, and I was just amazed. I didn't want to leave. You know, it's just a great place. And some of the things that we do, for example, we do an alcohol awareness program, and we just did one at Scoggins here back in May. And my wife, who is retired from another county, which I'm retired from another county also, but she helps me with these programs. And I said, you know, I'd love for you to come down here and see the school and help me with the program, but you got to see this park. And so we came down here and rode around before we started the program over there, and she was amazed. This beautiful park. We've got some great parks in Pownall County, so we're really proud of that. But I'm glad to be here tonight, just to speak briefly. We are working. We're working hard. I've been in government service for 35 years, and one thing I can tell you is that to be successful in government, you have to do one thing. You got to listen, you got to listen, and you got to listen. And you got to be willing to continuously review your processes and the things that you're doing with all your departments that you have. And that's what we've been doing for some time now. We're continuing to evaluate our customer service, like Darryl was talking about earlier, and that's not just with water, but we're doing that with our business license and some other things that we're doing. But we're listening to folks, and it's important for us to do. And we've had changes in our marshal service in the last 6 months. We've got a chief marshal for the first time, I think 12 years, 11 or 12 years. Trevor Hess and Marshal Hess has been doing a great job. We were fortunate enough that the Sheriff College is over there, and he used to work for the sheriff back a few years ago. Great guy. Trevor's doing a fantastic job for us. But one of the things that we noticed when we were looking at the marshal service is that code of ordinance hadn't been changed in a number of years. A long time. And so we took a look at it, and so we made some changes there, and the board adopted some changes. But that's what we're doing. I remember the night that I was stolen from the court system by the commissioners. Commissioner Pownall says, Frank, put your track shoes on. Scott Green, who can meet in a minute, who's our director of operations, put your track shoes on. And so even though we've got dress shoes on, they substitute as track shoes. We've really been trying to get things going and move things forward. But I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be a resident of Pownall County. I've been living here for about almost 2 years now. There's two kinds of Kool-Aid, the good Kool-Aid and bad Kool-Aid. I came out here about 6 years ago and started working and drank the good Kool-Aid and decided to stay over here and live. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you so much.
Appreciate your work. Frank's been a great asset to us, and I have told him that on several occasions. Put your track shoes on, put your running shoes on. We've got a lot of work to do. I've also told this next person, Scott Green, that, and he actually wore some the other day, didn't he? White. They were white. It was very interesting, wasn't it, George?
And they were from the 80s, too.
Yes.
They were K-Swift.
Scott is just a great asset to the county. Was over our DOT department, and then we ended up getting a better DOT director. No, Scott. When we got George Jones, when we promoted Scott, we got George Jones. Scott said, you know, how much a harder worker and how much just a stronger DOT person he was going to be. He was very complimentary of George. But I appreciate Scott. Scott, I'd like you to share a few words with us if you would. And Scott's been just a great asset to the county. And I really appreciate him in the position he's in now, Director of Operations. Him and Frank work together daily, and they're doing a great job. So Scott, I have to give you a hard time.
Thank you. I'm an engineer, just bear with me. Okay, I can't crack a joke to save my life. George is a smart engineer type. I didn't get that part. Frank's got the gift of gab. I didn't get that part. I'm a problem solver. That's what I like to do. You give me a puzzle, send me off. I'll go work on it, and I'll bring it back to you, bring a solution. That's what I love doing, and I really appreciate the opportunity that the commission gave me to sort of apply what we use at DOT day in, day out, communicating, coordinating, cooperating with so many different people to get a road project done. It works pretty much in everything you do. If you can work with people, you can coordinate, communication is the bottom line. And then bring the best ideas together. It's not about me, it's not about one other person or another person. You get the best heads together and you come up with the best solution. And that's what we're trying to do. I jump in with my background, I can give my 2 cents here and there, and sometimes the solution comes together. But basically, I'm here to support the department heads, help them out, help work in between the gaps where we have department heads. They've got their expertise in their own areas, and sometimes we just got to get together and solve a problem. And I help jump in that gap and make sure that communication is working when I can. And then I'm helping the commission with problems, property acquisition, special projects like the jail. I spend a lot of time on the new sheriff's office and working with the colonel and all his staff and the sheriff. And I love big projects. DOT, big projects built through the parkway we did in the last few years, East Highland Parkway. Great projects for the public. It just kind of blows open traffic, and you love to sit back and see that ribbon cut and then things get taken care of. And looking forward to the new facility that we're building behind our courthouse here in the next 2 years or less. But other than that, I'm not here to really talk and tell you a whole lot. Not a whole lot I can tell you. I'm here to answer questions, and we get into some Q&A. I'll be glad to jump in and try to help answer any questions you might have. So I sure appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. I don't take it lightly. Working for the public is a great thing. It's very satisfying when you can go home and tell your kids what you do. It's very tangible. You go home, you fix the pothole, you cut the grass, you take out the trash, whatever you do. It's very tangible to go home. So that's what I do. So it's a very enjoyable job. I love working in Pownall County, and I hope I can continue that.
Scott and George both were very instrumental and have been for the past 3, 4, 5 years on our roadside cutting, our extra roadside cutting, and our garbage litter pickup, we call it, on the sides of the road. We have made a difference. We still have a long way to go, but there's been a difference made. When you can come in from Cobb County down Dallas Highway and you see the sides of the roads there with trees that are still there from December and grass that's not cut properly, I can tell we've come a long way. And we've done the extra cuttings. We've worked together. They have with the state to make sure they know when the state's cutting, and we've cut state roads now, and work together with them to make sure that we give Paulding County as many cuttings as we can, litter pickup along with the sheriff's help, and we are conquering that and making a difference. It still takes the citizens to get out there. So Mr. Morris needs you to pick up trash, Ron needs you to pick up trash, everybody pick up trash. All of us working together can conquer the problem that we've had. So I didn't plan on the sheriff being here tonight, but he's here, and so is Mr. Hutton. Y'all have anything that you would like to say, or are you good with any questions? I'd love to give you a minute. Come on. And I appreciate you coming out. You must want something.
I know most of y'all here, I hear y'all I'm the sheriff department, and I don't want to bore y'all, I know you got other things to talk about. I do want to thank you that when this jail project came out, we've been talking about this for a long time. It's been a need that's been going on for a long time. I started off working in a jail, so not only am I the sheriff, I know how it works down there, I know what we need. The public has been great about listening to us. I went to commissioners and I told them, I said, I want to put a bond referendum out on the presidential ballot. I don't want to do our own little thing where they say we target our own group of people to go vote for this. I said, put it on the presidential ballot when most people are coming out to vote and let the public vote on it. If they approve it, we'll build it. If they don't, I don't know what we're going to do. We'll tell them we need to build it. But we put it on the ballot, it passed overwhelmingly. I want to thank the public for your trust in us to do that. I'm going to try to make it quick. We've got the people in the right places. Scott Green just come on and I'm thinking, I don't know why the DOT guy's going to come here and build a jail, but he walked in the room and I'm still the dumbest guy in there. He's extremely sharp. He has helped this project move. Me and Chip were both alive. I go, why don't we got a DOT guy here helping us with this? Scott's sharp as a tack. He come in and he's helping us get everything going. We've got some battles going on with the city, houses in the city. We'll get there. I'm looking forward to getting this project completed on time and under budget. So I appreciate y'all for that. And of course, we'll stay around and Chad Hunt over here at the Blue Shirt, my chief deputy. We work all the time. We're available. All you got to do is call the office. If you keep finding one of us, ask for my secretary. One of us will call you back. If you come there, we're there. We'll talk to you. We're easy to talk to. So I was born and raised here. This is my home. This is where I want to make a difference. I was born on this country, on this land, and I'm going to get planted in this place when we leave. I can't do anything without thinking this young lady sitting right here. I mean, y'all know Tabitha. I don't know why this girl still works here because we all go after her. But, she is a great asset to this county. If you get a chance, thank Tabitha for the job she does because this girl works as hard as anybody I've ever met. Thank y'all for your time. Thank you for letting me come.
I'm not going to have Tabitha speak, but she will help us with some questions they get asked. Tabitha lost her father-in-law, and so that's been kind of tough on her family. So thanks for coming out tonight.
Thanks.
And y'all really don't know the asset we have with Tabitha.
Dude.
Some of you do. But she is always just even keeled. She doesn't get into the politics. And she just lets you know where we stand. And she lets you know that if you go too far this way, this is what's going to happen. If you go too far this way, this is what's going to happen. And she just tells you the facts. And I had the opportunity to kind of start getting to know Tabitha 15 years ago, maybe before I got in office. And through different things before she even got the position she's in, and just a class act. So I appreciate everything you do for Pownall County, the citizens of Pownall County, the commissioners and department heads, because you keep us on track, on schedule, and where we need to be with the citizens' money. So thank you. More than you know. I would like to take some questions, and hopefully we can give you some answers. I come home at the end of the day and my kids ask a question and I say I'm all out of answers, wore out and out of answers. But hopefully we can give you some answers. One of the calls that I've gotten a lot lately, I'd like to say, and Tabitha's taking notes, Commissioner Crowe came in a little while ago. Thanks for coming out tonight. So that leaves Commissioner Crowe, Commissioner Davis, there's three of us here. One of the questions, one of the phone calls I've had lately is about tax assessment. And that's a good question. We don't control the tax assessor's office. They have a job to do, and they go do that job. It was interesting, I'm in real estate, and it was interesting when the market fell, folks would call and complain when they got their tax assessment. This is a true story. Get their tax assessment, they couldn't believe that their house was only worth that. Because everybody wants their house to be worth whatever it is they want it to be worth. Because for most people, that's the most valuable asset they got. And so my question, I'd start off, I said, well, are you planning on selling? I mean, I'm in the real estate market. Are you planning on selling? He said, no. I said, well, enjoy the ride. Don't worry about it. Your assessment's going down, the value's going down, your taxes are going down. Just enjoy it while you can. The market's come back, and we've all been looking for an economy to come back. When residential tanks, commercial's behind it. Residential goes first, then commercial. Residential has to come back before commercial comes back. And that's happening. So you're going to see more and more commercial. It's happening now. Chris knows. We got stuff coming. We got stuff coming. We got some pretty good stuff coming. And so, you're going to hear and see about some of the pretty good stuff coming in the next few months. I mean, some good stuff, some good jobs, a lot of jobs. And so, residential comes in, and those values go up, and then the commercial's behind it, and that's where we're at right now. And so, those tax assessors are out there doing their job, assessing the property, so here we are. So I'll open it up for questions, and hopefully between all the department heads and myself and Tabitha, you can ask any question. But if you got any question on the budget or anything, if you got any questions on the taxes, right now the chairman's proposed budget is 6.5 mill rate, which was last year's mill rate. So if we don't do a rollback on last year's mill rate, then it's going to be considered what the law now considers a tax increase. Okay? If we do a rollback, we're going to look for, you're welcome to tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I think we're looking for 1.8 million, roughly. $1.8 million if we're going to have to, if we roll back, if we're going to have to look at cutting out of this budget that we're doing. I told somebody in this room, and I don't really want to point the person out, and I don't even want the person to acknowledge it, but I told that person a few weeks ago, I said, I know you got this coming up, this coming up, this coming up, this is what you got to do, but let the process happen. Let the process happen. And the process happened, and it happened to go this person's way and some of their neighbors' way. It worked out for them through planning and zoning and through different things that went on. Sometimes you gotta let the process happen. And sometimes we have to let the process happen when it comes to the budget. And so we've got a budget based on 6.5 mils. It's got that amount of money. And if we do a rollback to say, hey, there's no tax increase, if we do that rollback, then we're going to be looking for about $1.8 million to cut out of the budget. A couple things that I am very proud that we were able to do was not too long ago, we did a salary study. And some people can be critical about it, but that salary study was much needed for a long time. And that salary study took us and looked at all the jobs that we have at all the surrounding counties, and then we adjusted our salaries to where they needed to be. But we did, it wasn't just about the salaries. It was about making sure that we had job descriptions that were correct. Because we may have went and hired Chris years ago for a certain job, and he's been here 20 years doing this same job, but we put so many things on him that the job description he started with is not what he's doing today. And so we looked at job descriptions of what he's doing in Pownall compared to what that Chris is doing in Todd or Bartow. So we did a lot of that. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm proud that we did it. Nobody was willing to take it up and do it, and I think it's something that needs to be done. So I thank the Board of Commissioners for doing that. But that salary study cost us basically this year. It's $2.8 million a year. Is what that salary study cost us to get us where we needed to be, even though everybody may not think we're exactly where we need to be. But it cost us $2.8 million. And then, of course, one of the things that we deal with every year, and that every family in America deals with every year in one way or another, and that's health care. And our health care went up, as it does every year. It was 1.3 this year. to take on that health care and not pass it on to the employees, about $1.3 billion. Did you get that answer the other day? Okay, you got that answer. We talked 2 days ago on the phone about that. And that's something that would direct cost that would have come out of the employees' pockets, and we did that. And so between the 2.8 and 1.3, you figure that's $4.1 million. So I'm proud of what we did with that for the employees. I think you have to give the employees the tools they need, the incentive they need, the pay they need in order to do the job. And I have made the comment over this past 9 months since we did all of that. I said, we give you everything we can in your tool bag. I know there's a few more tools you could use, but let's see what we can do to get some things done, and I think that's happened. And so I'm thankful for that. So I'll stop with that. But does anybody have any questions about anything that we've talked about or something that we haven't talked about? Doesn't matter. Yes, ma'am.
Last year, the budget was increased by $4 million, which was part of the salary study and the stormwater management. How much excess excess income or revenue did we get from the property increases and raising that millage rate? You based on what your preliminary budget was last year, and was there any money collected over what we anticipated to be those revenues?
You got that?
Yeah,
You got, because there was.
there was one.
Just a little?
For this year?
Yeah. Or we're right at it.
Well, in this year's budget, we had it balanced. And what happens on an annual basis, in the past few years, we have added to fund balance. Some of that is because we've shifted expenses, and this gets very confusing, but we have year end, which is tomorrow, or June 30th.
Right.
However, we have contracts that have been contracts in the form of like a purchase order, so guarantees for payments that have taken place, that have been secured in June.
Right. So
We don't receive those until July or August.
Right.
So what happens is the budget appears to be underfunded or in excess. You appear to have more revenues than expenses in this year, but those are moved to next year. That's happened for the past couple of years. Right now, it does not look like we will have an excess of fund balance. It looks like we may use some of fund balance for this year. I don't think we're going to add.
So that would be a work in progress, basically, for contracts that were approved in this fiscal year but won't be paid until the following fiscal year.
Right, well, normally it works that way, but I think this year it's going to catch us and we're going to use some of those. So I think we'll actually see a negative, we'll see a decline in our fund balance.
I'm talking about revenue, the actual income. If you're going to see a decline in income versus what was projected from last year.
No, you won't see a decline in the actual income.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, the revenue, the income from the taxes, the actual revenue.
My revenues last year, our budget, when I do the calculations, I calculate on 98% collections.
Right.
We will collect 100%, but we won't collect 100% in 1 year. So we will collect, some of this year's taxes will be collected in over the next 3 years.
Right.
So for instance, this year, I had 26.6 budgeted for collections in property tax revenues. We have right now seen 26.2.
So it's exactly what you.
So it is exactly what I had projected.
Does that answer it?
I do have a couple of, property taxes right on. I do have a couple of revenues that we have seen some increases in. And one of those being sales tax. And as long as the 1% comes in, the sales tax increases. We had a change in title level on tax and those kind of things over the past few years that have declined a little bit. That's coming back this year. we have a slight increase in insurance premium taxes. Those are taxes that are collected on the insurance premiums paid throughout the county. Those can only be funded, they're restricted, they can only be funded for unincorporated areas of the county. So you have to be careful where those are spent. But that's been very difficult to project because it increases every year. We just don't know exactly how much it's going to increase every year, and it's based on the last official census. So, like several years ago, one of the things that helped us get through the recession years was that what we were receiving was based on 86,000 when we had 125,000 in population. So when we go through another census in 2020, you'll get another large increase for that. But for now, it's the only change is the insurance premiums that are paid throughout the county. Otherwise, during the recession years, I was very, very careful to make sure I was budgeting very conservatively because I didn't know my expenditures were very difficult to gauge. There was nothing I could do about it. If I didn't get the money in, I didn't get the money in. So it's hard to go back and adjust the budget if you planned your expenditures based on that revenue. So those during recession years, those are budgeted very conservatively. I'm not doing that quite as conservatively now. So I'm trying to budget more on an exact target. Given it's an estimate. I miss it every 100% of the time, but those numbers are very close, so we're not missing our estimates. Maybe as much as we have in the past.
Don't miss it by too much.
Not missing.
Okay. All right, another question? Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment that I appreciate your vote in a positive direction for the accountability courts and the mental health courts.
That was something that just came up, so yeah. Tell Mr. Crow there beside you there, and Mr. Davis too, that was 5-0 vote, and I think that's a great, I think that, well, it's going to be just as important as the drug court in a different way. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to get into that. It hits home for me with some of my things. So that's a good positive thing in the court system. We've got a few other things coming up in the court system that we're looking at. So we'll be able to help them out with that too. So thank you all. I would like to share something with you that when I was doing some work on the budget earlier in the year, it's just interesting to me to see where we've come. In 2008, the digest that I have here, the population that we had was 130,195 people. The real property count that we were taxed on was 64,027 parcels. We move out to, and I don't have the exact thing for this year, but I have what our guesstimate was, which is going to be pretty close, and we'll have that a little bit later. But our population this year, we're considering it to be 160,359, so 30,000 more people. And our property counts, let's call it 65,058 parcels, so another 1,000 parcels roughly. But the amount of money that we collect this year, we'll collect more than what we did in 2008, but it won't be by much. Right? Is that
That's correct.
That's correct, okay. The point for me is when we look at what we're dealing with inside the county with all the departments, and the reason I give Tabitha so much kudos is everybody's coming to her looking for something. And And all these department heads are supposed to be coming, looking for all they can get for the department. I mean, right here, I mean, everybody's supposed to be coming to get what, that's their job, so they're doing their job, and thank goodness she's doing hers. Because some of them are pretty tough, aren't they? But when I look at this right here, and you're looking at 30,000 more people 10 years later, with only 1,000 more parcels, but yet the amount of money that you're collecting is close to the same. Not much more. It's not even enough to brag about it or talk about it. There was a judge one time when we were in a budget meeting 4 or 5 years ago. We all were going around the table talking about different things that we could cut or not cut out of our budget. And he said, I said, well, you got this, you got this, you got that. He said, but really the citizens drive our budget. And a couple people, I've told this story quite a few times, but a couple people in that meeting later said, I thought we're supposed to be cutting the budget. He said, the citizens drive the budget. What kind of budget cut was that? And I just listened, and the more I walked down the hall and got thinking about it, he's exactly right. And Gary and Chad, y'all know he's right. Because the citizens also drive their budget to a point.
Demand for services.
Because whatever's going on out there, how many people are doing this wrong or that wrong, or you end up having a murder trial in your county, and it's a ton of money for a murder trial. So the citizens do drive some of those budgets, and you could budget something and not think anything about it, and 6 months later something happens, and next year I can tell you're going to have a budget issue. Well, frankly, it was in the court system. And but anyway, it was just an interesting comment that he made. But I just want you to think about that 10 years ago, before everything tanked, had 130,000 people now. 10 years later, we got 161,000 people, 1,000 more parcels, but yet we're working on some of the same dollars. So when it comes to somebody in my position as a commissioner dealing with department heads that are looking for money to be able to do things, we went through a dry time, a very tough time where the budget was really cut back, and we weren't able to do as much DOT work that we needed to do. We weren't able to do some of the projects that needed done, and we sure were not able to replace any kind of equipment. And everything was duct taped and zip tied and everything else put together. So here we are. So it's tough making decisions in this time. But you think about those numbers, 30,000 more people, and we're still working somewhat with the same amount, pretty much the same amount of dollars. Nancy?
I just want to say, as commissioners, you're elected by the citizens, and you're supposed to watch out for the citizens, not the department heads. And when you raise up, when the millage rate goes up, and their property values go up, and all that goes up, that means their homeowners, their payments, their mortgage goes up, which means a taxpayer out here has to say, okay, now you put my mortgage up, and the reason you put my mortgage up is because you gave insurance and raises and everything to employees, when now also looking at these employees, these citizens, most of their companies are either cutting their insurance in half, or they have to pay for it now, which comes out of their pocket. As far as retirement, 401k is basically all any company offers now. There is no company, Wellstar, Cobb County, nobody actually offers a retirement other than 401k. So when you start throwing all of that in, you tell the citizens, we're going to give you all of that, but yet they're sitting here going, you raise my mortgage, which means now you cut out my summer vacation, because now I can't afford, or something of that nature. You cut out something in these families. So that's another reason why these families say, look at me, I elected you, you represent me, you don't, and so when you come back and start talking about, my department has to do this, my department has to do that, you represent the citizens here. So I'm just saying, yes, it's great to tell everybody what's going on in the departments, and I am excited about what is going on. But you also have to keep in mind what the actual citizens are saying, and they're the ones who elect you. They're the ones in office to protect them, and that's what they want you to do.
And I agree. And that's why I say, when you get in these times like this, when you look at what we were working with back then, and you look at where we're at today, it's tough decisions to be made. So that's why I said when I had the phone calls come in, and the chairman was going to have a couple town halls, and they got canceled, I said, I need to have a town hall and hear about it. Because we do need the input. And if that's what we all hear, and I somewhat kind of think what direction we're going in this year. I've been saying it, every department head meeting for the last 2 months. I've told the department heads what we need to do. And 3 of us have to make a decision to do this or do this. When you're on a commission and there's 5 people there, whatever 3 of you decide to do, that's the way you're marching. So, I hear you, and I agree.
Oh, can I say one quick thing up there?
Yeah.
The first place, everybody says, well, then we're gonna have to cut the sheriff's budget. No. Here's the thing, federal government, state government, county government, the #1 job of all of these governments is to protect their citizens. This should be the last place you ever to cut.
Well, he likes to hear that.
I mean, there's places, you can walk into the water department and there's girls sitting there doing nothing and they're begging you. I mean, there's other departments. Why aren't we trying to cross-train some of these departments when maybe planning and zoning is not busy and the water department is busy? You cross-train these people instead of them sitting there going, well, we're just waiting for people to come in. I mean, there's things there, not our sheriff's department, not our fire department. That's the #1 goal of government, so I just want to say that, because I know.
And you're good, and I will say this, your water department's an enterprise fund, and they stand on their own. And we are doing cross-training, and that's something we've been talking about. Because we needed somebody in a position, and I won't say what the position was, but Frank and Scott, and we all agree, the commissioners agree, that we need to train this one over here to be able to do that position when that's needed. And so we're talking about cross-training. And I understand what you're saying, water department. Sometimes that happens, but they're an enterprise fund, they stand on their own when it comes to that.
I think she was just using that as an example.
As an example, yeah.
It wasn't specific for that department.
Right.
But and I believe that the department heads, we have some of the best. We do. And they work hard, and their people work hard. But somewhere, there's got to be some give. The school board is talking about not rolling back their millage rate as these property values increase. While your revenue is the same as it was in 2008 with 30,000 more people, I get that, I understand that. But there's only so much blood you can squeeze out of turkey.
And I understand. That's why I'm here talking to you about it.
So
They still have to look at the numbers to see where you've been, to see where you're going. Has the school board passed their budget?
Yes.
Their budget?
Yes.
Okay.
But not city village.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. The school board is going to do this again. And, I
So I feel that pain, and that's nothing negative about the school board, but you can't go and pass a budget and then wait till out here to set your millage, because your budget was passed on that millage. So unless you're gonna work on changing that budget, between now and this millage, that millage is gonna be exactly what that budget says.
It's exactly.
And they do it a little bit different. They passed that budget now, I knew they'd already passed it.
Right.
They passed that budget and that millage gets done next month,
Right.
okay? We do ours the same day. Because if you don't have the millage, you can't have the budget.
Exactly.
So you already know where that's coming. So, and with that said, yeah, it gets a little tough. And the school system is, to me, we do a lot of work with the school system, and we work together well with it. But we're going to have more work to do with them, with everything that's going on. All of us, the sheriff's department, which involves the board of commissioners, which involves the school board, we all have a lot of work that we got to do. But the end of the day, your tax bill is just that one tax bill, and they go to look at somebody for that one tax bill, whether it's the school system.
Exactly.
Oh, it's Chad.
I was just, I was gonna say, it seems like, and I don't wanna, step out, but as a citizen, and I'm also in your,
Yeah.
district, sir, is that I have 5 kids that are in the school system myself, so when I say this as a resident, not as a deputy or the sheriff's chief deputy. But, you know, I watch these BOE meetings, and there's 2 citizens in there when they're voting on their budget.
Thank you.
And you go to the Board of Commissioners meeting, and the commissioners get beat up. And we're paying the highest millage rates for the BOE, so there's nobody there voicing that. And, you know, I think we need to hold them accountable as well.
I agree.
They have the highest millage rates, so I just like to point that out. We need to start going to these BOE meetings. I don't want to take away from my kids, because I got 5 kids. I came up in this school system. I graduated here. I went all through school here. I don't want to take away from my kids either. But, you know, I contribute to the school system. I give my time. I give my money. We have, I got a son that plays soccer, had a daughter that plays softball, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but we had to raise money because kids couldn't afford to pay what it cost to play ball, so they could play ball. Or I paid for a kid to play ball, whatever it took, so they could play ball. But, I mean, the amount of money they have is very, it's astronomical compared to what we work off of here. So I'll leave it at that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just have to say this, all right? The average home brings in about it costs $2,500 in local taxes for one child. And if you've got 5 children, we're not coming close to what it costs to educate kids. So we're 152 out of the 180 districts in what we spend to educate a child. So, I mean, we're low well. If we didn't have money from the state, except, I don't know what we did.
Well, listen to what she said, we're low wealth.
We are.
We don't have people that have a lot of big houses that can afford an increase in property taxes, whether it be from the school board or the Board of Education. Board of Education.
You're right.
I mean, there's just, the only thing we got is probably, what is the commercial, about 20%?
No.
What is, 12%?
Well, almost 30. Hang on just a second.
I guess from what I talked to my community about and what they have portrayed is that when we look at the tax increase, where are we going to get that money to pay those taxes? Because our income has not increased at the same rate that taxes are. So your balance of living or quality of living, every time that gets out of proportion, is going to start going down. My concern is if the taxes go up to the point where people can't afford to live in those houses anymore, the foreclosure rate's going to go up. The plight is going to go up, which is going to end up being more costly than a step increase in tax rates based upon what the actual income rate is increased. That's
And he's absolutely right, because, I mean, we're getting to the point where people can't afford it. They simply can't afford to live here. So we got to all work together.
Oh, yeah, I understand. But the Board of Commissioners and the school board, we all have those.
But I do agree that people need to come to those Board of Education meetings. You need to be here.
Well, a lot of times what happens, and this is not the school board's problem, it's just what happens. At the end of the day, they're going to pass their millage, and it comes on to us, for us to, people say pass it, but we don't have a choice. We have to do what they send us to do. It's not ours to deny. So if we can do a rollback and end up being the good folks that did the rollback, but still get blamed for the tax increase, because there's still a tax increase there. Because the school system's gonna do it. And that's not their fault that we get blamed for it, it's just what happens, is that right, Kathy? I mean, it's just what, at the end of the day, it's what happens. And you're right, they don't go there, they come to us, so, and that's what we need to hear. Anybody else?
Had one. You know how I feel about the budget, so.
About what? About
We
what?
talked about that last year, the budget.
Yeah, yes.
But I just want to hit on the Lindsay Everhart Fuller, her good news. And I know that some of the people in this room may not already know that the coroner is going to have a space in the new jail. And I don't know if Gary's responsible for that or the commission. But whoever it is, I'd like to say thank you for her and for us.
I think that was a group effort, but on the commission board, it was Mr. Coleman Crowe.
That's a good thing both ways too, Todd. It's for the coroner, but it's also for all the families in here. I don't know that, it don't really affect you until it affects you. And your loved one that is deceased, that you want to be taken care of, is not all from your home to Polk County, put in a morgue in Polk County, waiting until they can get to a crime lab in Decatur. They gotta go back to Polk County, pick them up in there, and carry them to Decatur to the crime lab for autopsy, and then they go back to the county and bring them back here. That's for the coroner side of it. The problem with this, if one of your loved one is, and I hate to say it, but it's what it is, if somebody murders somebody that you love, and the coroner picks up the body, and then the crime lab can't take it, and that happens because they take bodies from 159 counties in the state. So if they don't have a cooler, you can't just leave a body laying there. I mean, you gotta have a cool place to put it. If they don't have a place for it, they say, we're not taking it. So what do? So you have to hold that person, and we're on the phone, and this happens at 12 noon, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we're on the phone going, hey, we need a place to store this body, but it's a crime scene body, which means that we can't just take it to somewhere and leave it. If we do, we've got to put a deputy on it continuously to not break the chain of evidence. If we don't, and it's a murder victim, it's all upside down, so nobody really understands how important it is to have a morgue and I know everybody watches TV, you're thinking the morgue is this big elaborate thing. This is basically for all y'all are country folks. This is a deer cooler. It's a, you open the door, it's a tool box with trays that you can set a body on. I mean, we're not building like some of you see on TV. But I was glad everybody's gonna say, you know, we're gonna walk into this beautiful park with all this famous stuff. And that's not what we're building. We're building a place so that we can store them and it'll be in a secure environment. I wouldn't even have access to it. I don't have access to it. But it'll be in a secure environment and that coroner can go in and out. The place can be locked and the doors are open when it's closed. She'll have a key to it and I won't and I don't want it. But I also won't have to leave the deputy sitting there. Sometimes you have to leave them for 2 or 3 days, and that's around the clock that you're paying them to sit and look at the door. And on their side of it, it ain't a lot of fun. It's because money everywhere, it's also, I mean, it's a royal pain, and it always happens when you're at home sleeping.
Well,
but it's a good thing for the county. It's a reasonable fix, and it needed to be done. Me and Tony went to Polk County, and I didn't know what she was wanting. Tony didn't know what she was. I said, well, yeah, one over, let's go look at it. I described it pretty well, though, Tony.
That's right. Nancy came to me, she said, do you think you can get the sheriff to do it? I went to the sheriff said, let's go over to Polk County and see what they got. We went in there, he didn't tell me they had a body in there, they put me in there. And we coming back, he was making phone calls, trying to figure out the best way to be able to store as many bodies as possible if he had to. So it was a joint effort. It was a need. Gary, once again, he said he'd seen it right off the bat and he took care of it. And the design went into the jail.
Yeah, it's a
good, and that's something that's been talked about really, that I know for 20 years. It's been talked about longer than that, but I know it's been talked about for 20 years.
But if you have to build a standalone building to put it in, it's
That's right.
inexpensive. We go out of space and we can add to the building at a very minimal cost. And if you have to go build your own building for it, you need pocket.
So good thing, everybody working together. So, thank you. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just got one more comment. I can't say enough about the sheriff's department and the relationship that the school district has with them. You don't get better, and I've worked all over the state, and it is not that way everywhere. So,
I'm
thank
proud, you're welcome, I'm proud of our relationship with that department head here, and I know y'all think we're all buddies, but we're not, because we go in the back room and we fight like cats and dogs. When we go out in public, it's just like this, I know everybody in this room is not in agreement with what's going on, but everybody's personable, everybody's peaceful about it. You can't fix anything by swinging at each other, calling each other names and ugly stuff, and, cussing and fussing, don't get the job done. Scott Green, I don't know how many times, it don't matter which one of these guys we call, if we need something, it's coming. If they call me, we're coming. And I don't care whether you're in the city, in Hiram or Dallas, I don't care if you're wrong. If you call me and need something, as long as I'm sheriff, we're coming. School board's the same way, we need a school bus, we need it. I call Scott Green, well now it's George Jones, if I need cones and somebody to direct traffic, shut down the road, it's coming. You don't have to wonder, is it gonna happen? I call Frank Baker, I need something in the county, it's coming. And every department in this county, I'm extremely proud to be here. I'd like to take credit for it, but I think it's all the departments, it's all the people makes it, it's not just a department. My office is not me. There's 300 of us, it's what makes us. But everybody's there the same way. Get the job done. And we've always been that way. It's just get the job done and take care of the people. That's what we're here for. And I want most of the public knows it, because anytime you have any dealings or you need us, we'll come. I'll shut up, this is your meeting.
No, you're good. You're good. This is ours, not mine.
I just want to make an observation about the sheriff's department. The other day I was driving down the road and there was a vehicle that was off the road that had a flat tire. And who was changing that tire? But one of the people from our sheriff's department. They care.
That could be my daughter. You pass my daughter with a flat tire, stop there.
Any other questions?
Summertime.
Do what?
Summertime.
Sometimes. Any other questions? You don't have to put up with that. All right, so I'd like to just, a couple of things I'd like to share with you, and then we'll go. We're working on the budget, okay? And I've heard from quite a few people. I've talked to each of the post commissioners. I've talked to the chairman, and we're working on the budget. I've talked to department heads, Brian, it's made it plain. Couldn't be no plain. So I'm telling you, we're working on the budget. We're going to see what we can do, and hopefully we'll know something sooner than later on our part of it. But no matter what happens, school system's budget, our budget, sheriff department, we're going to work together to do what we can to continue to make Paulding County a great place to live, work, and play, a place to be safe. And we got a lot of those issues that are going on in the world when it comes to our school system. And Gary's mentioned it 100 times. I mentioned it to him. We've talked to school board members. We've got a lot of work to do to work together to make sure that we can do the best we can do with the resources we have to make sure that our community and our kids at school are safe.
And being safe is not cheap.
That's right. It costs money to be safe. But those kids deserve to go to school, you know.
Like we did.
Like we did. Yeah. I won't say it on film, some of the things we were able to do, but it was a different world. And so, but they deserve that same thing. So If anybody has any questions after we're done, feel free to stick around. I would like to share, Frank, would you like to just real quick talk about 112 acres that we just put under contract?
Sure, I'm really excited about it. It's 112 acres on Raccoon Creek. And for those of you who don't know the Raccoon Creek area, it's a fantastic place. I didn't know anything about it. I'm an avid cyclist, and I'm on the trail a lot with my wife. And I pass by this place all the time and didn't know anything about it. And I was in a meeting with Lori, our water system director, and some folks from KSU and Tim Pugh from the water system back around Christmas time, and we were talking about this interesting area. And so he says, "You got to see this place." And I looked at a map. I said, "That's the Silver Comet Trail?" And he said, "Yeah, it's at the about 29.5 mile marker or so, is where Raccoon Creek goes underneath where the Silver Comet is." So Lori got a group together, and I went out there for the first time, and it's fantastic. It's a hidden gem. I presented just a very short presentation this Tuesday at the commission meeting when y'all passed that to purchase that 112 acres. But just so those of you who weren't there or you haven't seen the footage, it is so unique that we have 43 species of fish in that creek. 43 compared to other places that have just a fraction of those. I wish I had my notes with me. I apologize.
Okay, that's fine.
The Columbia River in the northwest has less species of fish in that river than we do in the Raccoon Creek area. That water basin is just phenomenal. And it's home to the montane longleaf pine, these huge pine cones, and they do a lot of control burning out there. It's just a fantastic place to go. All the commissioners have gone. We've taken a trip out there. Some of you may be familiar with that area. I'm Sheriff, I know you are. I know you've been in and out of that area all your life. So, but it is a hidden gem that we have. And so I was just ecstatic. Thanks to Scott for putting that deal, working with the state and the Nature Conservancy to get some funding for that. And I appreciate the commissioners taking the lead at that and passing that last week. And it just helps us. Because we have a great partnership with the state folks, DNR, and KSU. KSU, if I could just take just a moment to let them know, KSU has been doing a lot of research out there. And not only the college research that's going on, but our own school system, talking about the school system. They're doing some phenomenal research out there in connection with KSU. And it kind of hit home when we were out there talking with the KSU folks. Our school system that's doing the research, they're actually looking at DNA samples that they're extracting from the creek. And I said this the other day, I know just enough to make me dangerous to talk about this, but I've been schooled by a professor up at Kennesaw about this particular area. One of the schools isolated some DNA from the creek that's not on any database out there. So you talk about unbelievable stuff right here in our county.
Well, Sasquatch. In the deer cooler. In the deer cooler.
That just goes to show you, that's a hidden gem. If you don't know about that area, I tell you, take a look at it, do some research on it. We've got a lot of good things going on with that area. And so we're looking at this as a continued partnership with those folks and the local school system to continue to do the research and the education. And it's part of one of our greatest assets too is that Silver Comet Trail. So we're very pleased to have that. I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, and so the Nature Conservancy, where we're getting $150,000 coming. We went out and looked at it. We've been working on it a while. The commissioners all voted, in executive session, not voted, but gave the go-ahead to move forward and see what we could do to purchase this property. And sometimes you hear things out in the world, and some things I heard I wasn't real happy with, and so I got with Scott the other day, and Scott made a phone call. We found out there was gonna be another buyer, and we were able to get on something a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, and it happened pretty quick. And so we're gonna we're gonna get this deal done. It'll be in Pownall County's name. We're gonna go in with the school system to do some things. Mr. Peterson at Pownall County High School, the magnet program is the program that's very involved in that and with Kennesaw. And so we're gonna look to the state next year and hope to do something, because I could see some very elementary looking type, outdoor type classrooms, but I could see on some of that having some kind of facility that was an indoor classroom where kids from not only our county but surrounding counties can go there to do research there on the premises. So we're really looking forward to that. So that's another bit of good news that we had. And Scott, thanks for your work. I was able to play a small part in that. And I got to give Tony kudos, because that's in post 4.
Gotcha.
And typically, when something comes up, whoever that post commissioner is, they're the ones that make that motion. And he allowed me to make that the other day. So I appreciate that. It may not mean much to y'all, but it did to me, so thank you. I would like to share one more thing with you. You know, the last 4.5 years has been interesting for me. A lot of sleepless nights, and it's been tougher than what people think when it comes to the one issue dealing with the airport. And it's taken a lot of time away from other things that shouldn't have to take time away from.
And money.
And money. We got a letter on Tuesday that I want to share with you, and I'll attempt to read this. It's from the FAA. It's addressed to Mr. Terry Tibbetts, the airport director. Dear Mr. Tibbetts, on March 29, 2018, the Atlanta Airport's district office sent you a letter requesting that by May 28, 2018, the Paulding County Airport Authority complete certain revisions to the draft environmental assessment, the EA, covering the proposed introduction of commercial service, connected actions, and unrelated general aviation projects at the airport. We indicated in the letter that should we not receive a revised draft by that time, we would assume you no longer wish the FAA to proceed with the environmental assessment. To date, this date, which is June 26th, not only have we not received a revised draft EA, we have not received any communications from you on this matter. We therefore must assume that your interest in the environmental assessment has concluded and we have closed our file on the project. The EA was intended to support your application for an airport operating certificate under 14 CFR Part 139. Absent an environmental review, we cannot consider your application and deem your lack of interest in pursuing the EA to constitute a voluntary withdrawal of your Part 139 application. We have closed our file on the 139 application as well. great news for myself and others, but it's something that we've worked on for 4.5 years. I'm going to read the other part of it. It says, if you wish to pursue an operating certificate under 14 CFR Part 139 in the future, please submit a new application along with all the required documentation at that time. We can address an approach to conducting the proper level of environmental review based on the circumstances in effect at the time. And one of the things that started a lot of this was the proper environmental assessment was never done. And it cost a lot of money to do an environmental assessment. I'm very thankful for this letter. There's a lot of citizens in this room that I'm looking at that have worked very hard against the project. Myself, as a post 2 commissioner, there were a lot of things done improper, weren't done the right way. This letter just came out Tuesday. There's still work to be done. We still have lawsuits out there that are ongoing and pending and we don't control. Lawsuits where somebody's come against us or whatever. And there's still things to take care of to see that this type of procedure doesn't happen again.
Yes.
And to make sure that we have department heads that are doing what they should do properly. And I just wanted to share, it's great news for me. It's made me sleep well, but I know we have more work to do. We'll continue to work hard on it to get things resolved. But my hope and prayer is that we can get things taken care of the right way, fixed and repaired, and that we can heal our community.
Yes.
And that we can come together to do what's right. And we have a general aviation airport that the Board of Commissioners needs to work hard on to see that that's successful for the citizens of Pownall County, for the tax base of Pownall County, and what the general aviation airport was built for. And I've actually had quite a few sit-downs the last 2 days. That's all I've done since this letter. And I feel good about that, but we have a long way still to go. But I feel good. My hope and my prayer is that we can get things taken care of and the community can heal, and that we don't see anything like this happen again. When you put something out to vote on a jail and it just gets voted on and you build it, it's all good. And that's what we should be doing, is making sure that when things are done, we don't have to agree. We don't have to agree. There are some people that didn't vote for the jail, but they had the opportunity to vote. And the ones that voted, voted, and we're building jail.
Just like they did the reservoirs.
That's right. So my hope and prayer is that we can get through this, we can do what we need to do to get things wrapped up, resolved. It's going to take some time, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But that we don't, I hope this is something that all communities look at, make sure that they don't allow it to happen in their community. I'm not just talking about the subject, talking about the way it's done. I appreciate y'all coming out tonight. I'm Todd Pownall, your post 2 commissioner. If I can ever do anything for you, ask. And you and I working together will continue to make Pownall County a great place to live and work and play. Thank y'all for coming out.